In this video, I'm going to show you 4 ways to create terrain in Giraffe. The first is to click on our terrain app and click edit. And you will see that a mesh appears within the site boundaries. And if I hit the 3D toggle, you can see that that mesh is 3D. Now, this source of this mesh is the Mapbox DEM, Digital Elevation Model, and its precision, its accuracy is between 10 and 30 meters around the world. So it's not survey accurate, but it is more than adequate for a lot of use cases. And the nice thing about it is not only that it's so quick, but also that it is interactive in a couple of ways. First, if you draw a building on it, Giraffe will snap the centroid of that building to the mesh, so the building can slide down or up hills. And so if you're doing lots of buildings, you'll see them looking over each other. The second thing that's nice about it is you can do cut and fill. So if I click the plus button there, I can draw a cut and fill pad. And this pad is either going to cut into or fill the mesh. You can change the elevation datum using the elevation datum property, as well as the angle of repose. And Giraffe will actually also do a cut and fill calculation for you. So in this instance, minus 47,000 cubic meters. So that's the first way of dealing with elevation in Giraffe. Quick, diagrammatic, slightly quantitative, but not extraordinarily accurate. The second way of dealing with elevation in Giraffe is even more diagrammatic, but sometimes very useful. And that's just to use the roof tool to draw a slope. So in this example, I'm going to create this geometry. I'm going to put it on a new layer called terrain. And you can see I've got the contours on the map. I've added those from the layer library. So not only do you get the Mapbox global elevation contour layer, but you can connect to GIS contour data in almost every jurisdiction we work in. And so I've drawn to the 20th contour and to the 6th. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an elevation datum and a height. But first I'm going to make roof. So I've picked all this geometry, I've hit space, and I type make roof. And Giraffe actually adds the height key for me. Now the height I'm going to set is from 6 to 20, so that's 14 meters. And then I'm going to pull this ridge line back. And then I'm going to hit the T key, and I can see the slope that I've made. I'm going to add a color property and set it to green. And you can see this is even more diagrammatic than the mesh from Giraffe, but often good enough. So if I draw a geometry on my default layer and I turn it into a residential tower, you can see roughly how many levels it cuts into the ground over those 47 meters, or indeed over those 41 meters. So that's the second way of doing terrain in Giraffe. Now, if I turn on the two terrains at the same time, you can see that the one is sitting on the other one. So I'm just going to add that base height 6, get it there. And you can see they sort of roughly intersect. They sort of depart from one another over here. But over here, they are roughly the same. Let's turn those off. And you can see I'm moving things up and down in the Z because Giraffe wants you to work on the ground plane. That's the easiest, but you can lift things up into the sky if elevation is important. Okay, the third way of doing terrain is to add another layer called model terrain and import a terrain mesh. So I'm going to draw point, upload 3D model, and I have from Rhino a GLB terrain mesh, and this one has some built structure and some tanks on it, and I'm just going to import that. So I'm going to click the point, the little default giraffe appears. I'm going to get a new upload. That's the name of my mesh. Site mesh, save. Now, when you're doing this, you need to not only know the scale, but also the rotation and the input point of these meshes, which is not terribly difficult to find. And if you're careful, it's not hard to do, but you need to know where on the globe this survey mesh is meant to be imported. Often it's by reference to a satellite image. You may know that corner there, or that this point goes, you know what I mean? Something like that. And then ensuring that you're working to the right units. Now, this is static. You can't change it. However, it can be highly, highly accurate. And then I can be, if I get building back, I can put my building on this mesh. I'll just turn that model terrain off and then add this idea. So that's the third way of doing terrain in Giraffe. I'll turn that off. Now, the fourth way is to create your own terrain maker. So I've created a mesh machine app, the contour mesh machine in beta, and I'm going to add it. It explains what you need to do. We need to create some lines for the contours and then click run. So I'm going to do that. First line I'll do is that, and it says add the property contour to true and an elevation property. So I'll add contour, which I've actually already set, and that's going to be true. And then I'll add an elevation, and that elevation is for this line going to be 8. And then I'm just going to copy that line to the 20, set it to 20, and then I'll draw this line 28. And I'm only choosing the lines that are pertinent to me, and I'm drawing them at the resolution that's pertinent to me. So I could get right in there, you know, make these very complicated, like trace that out. However, I'm doing this, and I'll show you why in a second. And then I'll grab this and I'll put it at the 40 roughly, so that we can finish ourselves off. Okay. So I'm going to select those lines, and I'm going to grab the Y key and do that so that an elevation appears on all of them, and the contour property. So this is 28, and this is 34, and this is 42. All right, so there I'm set up, and I'm going to click run. Okay, so that worked, and the mesh appeared. And if I look, that's what my mesh looks like. If I click this, turn it on, you can see it's not dissimilar to this. So all of these mesh techniques have their strengths and weaknesses. Now, the big strength about this one, I'm just going to turn this off now. The big strength about this one is it's sort of infinitely refinable. It's added here on this mesh. So I can add another line at 24. And then I could say, well, I'm actually going to build a pad at 24. So I'll use the Y key, pick up that and set that to 24. And then I'm going to excavate. So I'm going to drag my 24 line. Well, actually, I'll drag my 28 line out like this, drag it to there, and set its elevation to 24. So I'm kind of manually doing a cut and a fill. So my slope's going to go up from 6 to 20 to 24, stay at 24, then go up to 28, and then up to 34. And maybe I need to refine this mesh over here for reasons. But then if I come over here and I click run, we get a more refined mesh. And if I turn that on full, you'll see there's actually a cut. You can see the strong step up from 24 to 28, and then the flat between 24 and 28. Now, the nice thing about this is the full editability and control. Although it's not as smart or as fluid as our base mesh, it is more accurate. The other very nice thing for large firms with their own computational design departments is you can grab this code, you can edit it and extend it. So there's a whole bunch of services and processes that would be possible to run where you could create your own slope optimization. You could do stormwater flow paths, people view analysis. A whole bunch of computational design could be done automatically. So call that 4.5. This is number 4, the fourth way of doing terrain. The half is you can take this and extend it and use it to differentiate your business however you want.